What's happening, guys? We are in Austin, Texas. It's a beautiful day today. It's May 13th, and what we want to talk about today is actually something that has been on my mind for many years, but I got asked by a group of men's development coaches to talk about the red pill, what I dislike about it, what I may agree with it, and what kind of is it. Now, I am the wrong guy to be asking what the red pill is, and because I respect these guys who talk to me about it so much, I really wanted to finally do some heavy research on what the red pill is. So if I offend any of you guys about what the red pill is, rather than getting all pissed off and, really angry, which is what I see a lot of, I want to know, and I want these things to be cleared up. Now, if you want to join in this discussion as well, to where there's a lot of good dialogue going on, go to the Austin Men's Development Facebook group. It's free. It's awesome. And there's a lot of guys talking about it, and a lot of good information has been passed. Is my take on it so far, which is what I want you guys to talk about. Now, the coach who asked me originally from this group, he actually said, Steve, I hate talking about this stuff. I hate giving it power, but people keep asking me about it, and I figured you were a good guy to talk to about it. Now, I may not be the best guy. I think there's plenty of authorities on the red pill who I've been listening to, and perhaps those are the better people. But what I stand for 100% is men developing themselves, being their best selves, living their best life, being emotionally free, being determined, being confident in who they are, having good relationships, having great sex, and that's a big highlight of what I talk about, having good relationships with people, and being able to have whatever relationships that you want. Now, I believe that that needs to exist without an ideology. So you could be Christian or Muslim, you could believe in Trump, you could not believe in Trump, and guys in our groups kind of prove how beneficial we can move towards that primary goal of men's development, because we have all those different guys. We have guys who are capitalists, guys who are socialists, guys who have all sorts of stuff who are able to get their best life. And it's really beautiful to see. So if you're interested in that, look at Men's Development Excellence. It's a great way to get started with that whole idea, that whole mentality, with that whole way of life, which we've done since 2009 as an existing, never broken online platform. And I've been coaching since 2006. So that all being said, my problem with the red pill is not the ideology. The more I look at it, the more we learn about hypergamy. And when I hear Rollo Tomasi's definitions of hypergamy and what that is, and of course, it's very loose. I mean, I think everybody there knows exactly what they're talking about, but to give it a direct definition, I don't see. When I hear about alphaness, I don't see a direct definition. And one of the things that I could kind of boil this down to, of what I hear from Rollo say, and this is other people too, is that things like alpha and beta and omega or whatever are kind of abstract titles, but they're used to give an unconscious confidence. So when we can be confident as men, but not have to think about it, not have to posture for it, and so on, that really is part of the end goal. Things like hypergamy are interesting because from my interpretation of this, it means that women marry up, but women marry up that they're not consciously thinking about this. This isn't a choice or a decision that they're making. This is something that is an undertow of their biology. But what's interesting with the whole red pill thing is that this is now screwed up because of society. And so if it is because of society, I feel we have to address that. And I can go into a parallel of that. Deserves its whole own kind of, for each particular topic, deserves their own kind of discussion of the evolution, the born to be quality of that, and the societal augmentation of it. And then where do we go to fix that? But in terms of hypergamy, of course, if you slack, women won't like you. If you take care of yourself, if you're determined, if you're ambitious, if you have good things going on in your life, more women will like you. And in a relationship setting, they will even more. But I think the interpretation of where a lot of these things come into play is where my problem with the red pill begins, and it creates a whole nother set of problems. Now, of course, there's more tenements of the red pill that I could agree with or disagree with. But the problem for me comes into a part where we are kind of forced to believe in an identity. Now, I kind of always looked at the red pill and was like, man, what are these kids doing? Like, this is so stupid. This is so overly defined. Like, I already get all this. Like, I understand. Like, the world is not how it was sold to us. I get that, relationships are a total lie. I've lived that. I mean, I have lived what I feel a lot of people are trying to achieve in that in two ways. One, in making a living out of sleeping with women for 10 years of my life and having hundreds of women and relationships within that be a part of my life and all sorts of sexual adventure. I get that. I get the dark sides of that. I've worked with men on the positives of that, the negatives of that. I've worked with through my own stuff on that. I think it's pretty obvious. I also get a relationship. I've been with the same woman for 7 years. I've started a family. It's led really well. It's great. What's interesting, as soon as I show any dissent towards red pill or MGTOW stuff, I hear a lot of guys who are like, oh, you're going to get divorced. You don't understand women. I understand women. I really do. And I think there's more to learn. And I am amazed by women, but I also think that part of a woman is allowing her beauty to come out and showing that. And how can I lead that? And if you want to know more on that, you can watch Hans Comeyns and many interviews. There's 3 of them. And it's hours and hours of good stuff. But part of the thing that we talk about is leading our relationship into glory. Or part of the thing that Hans really talks about is how do we give a woman to be her best? How do we encourage her to be her best? And all these different things, which is actually a really good definition and a really good application of what I think a lot of the guys in the red pill community are confused about. How do we have power as a man and do the right thing, but also give beauty to a woman for her being beautiful because that's her deal? I don't see examples of that. I see a lot of anger, which then gets me to the second problem. So the first is this obsession with an identity. Are we in or out? Man, I do a lot of the red pill stuff, but I'm not seen as that. So then all of a sudden my life, by certain people who are really angry, it starts picking apart how I get this wrong. I don't think I get it wrong. I actually think I am an embodiment of many things of it. Okay. Could be wrong on that, but please specifically state out. And if you want to make it a heated emotional thing, it's probably not going to be the best use or form of an argument. I would rather have really see how my life doesn't embody this. But I feel I've always embodied many of the things, but I just don't carry that title because I think it's kind of dumb. I don't want to be bound by it. The second thing is, because everything is so insular within the red pill, that it almost rejects outside information, kind of like my information, but there's also very good information that isn't mine that has to do with different interpretations of evolutionary psychology, different interpretations of how things work, how relationships heal. One of the things that I heard, and of course, Rollo's a smart guy and has a lot of experience with a lot of stuff. There's a lot that I disagree with in his take on it. And this is actually one of them, is that and again, this is, I'd have to talk to him about it. This is not a full representation of probably what he thinks, but he says when he ran groups for men would talk about being divorced. It's like, I do all these things for my wife. I do all these things, but she doesn't want me. And in that case, it's a problem of desire from the woman, which I can agree that that's true. But part of the solution was getting into your own alphaness or your own conscious or unconscious confidence, your own ability to live your own life. I do agree with this, but this does not solve a relationship. And in my work, where I have a lot of experience with working with guys directly in relationships, working with my own relationship, the solution is not that. The solution is not that I need to be more alpha. That's part of the equation of me gaining my own sense of self and confidence, but it is listening to her. It is hearing her, but also knowing that what she's telling me is coming from pain, that part of that is augmented, that that's not what I need to follow. I need to reinterpret that. And I need to get to the freaking solution. I need to get to the point where my wife is happy. And there's a whole bunch of discussion in that. And there's so much that we could go into it, but this is where guys who are part of this insular group take things too literally. So there's a lot of guys who aren't alpha talking about what being alpha means. There's a lot of guys talking about what unconscious confidence, or not being aware and just being confident and acting, of what we do. And I know you need training wheels to start, but what I don't see are people taking those training wheels and carrying out a good path. And it's the same problems that we saw in pickup, is guys who posture and may look good, but if I know them in real life or something, I'd really want to see a bigger example of this. I see it fraudulently done so many times. You could go into hypergamy. It's like, well, women just want to take from you. Women don't really want to take from you. Women want a good life. And if they're bored and if they're not seen as what they should be, they'll take from you. And they'll take from you and leave because you disrespected the essence of femininity. I think in total, We really got to get more into what seduction is, what empathy is, and so on. But there's a lot of videos that I'll probably do on this. There's a lot in terms of what I want to find and be able to articulate well when I do start doing these interviews with the different men's group leaders, talking about what they like and dislike about the red pill. And I want to kind of understand it. But fundamentally, what I believe right now is those are two problems that I see, you know, the kind of insular group and you know, us versus them sort of thing, but also the misinterpretation of certain truths and the inability to check it or look beyond it. And a lot of the blinds leading the blind happens a lot in men's groups. But also I do think fundamentally that men can change. Men can achieve a good life. You can achieve happiness without being dogmatic about a certain philosophy. And it might be great that you finally realize that Santa Claus wasn't real, but it doesn't mean that you need to hate your parents or rebel against society. I'll tell you this. This is a quick story. As soon as I found out that the language of the world in terms of women and sex was bullshit, I didn't really get mad at the world or care about it that much. I just thought, man, why don't I just go fuck more chicks? When I realized that the language of relationships wasn't how the world had mapped it out and said to me, I just said, okay, well, I want a good relationship, so what do I need to do it? What I don't see are a lot of guys doing that, and what I do see is a lot of guys putting this philosophy on a pedestal, not achieving those results, not being those men, talking a lot about alphaness, talking a lot about happiness, and not coming from a true place of confidence where that exists, mainly because they're fighting for it. There always needs to be a war, there needs to be an enemy, and those things aren't healthy, man. They're not good. And nowhere in being a good human being, masculine or feminine, do I think blame or retaliation or war come into play unless it's very, very necessary. I don't think it's necessary. All right, let's talk about this. Let's build the discussion. There's a lot of things that this encompasses. A 10, 12, whatever minute video is not going to hit it all. So hopefully there will be more, and hopefully I can build a dialogue with guys and have rational conversations instead of conversations that are emotionally filled, why your belief system needs to be right and I need to be wrong. Okay, I'm out.